Collar and the Crow. The house beyond the fence always looked so warm. It radiated a glow like nothing else could. I always dreamed of having a place in that home. I wish I could be like the others. But alas, such was not my fate. No, my fate was that of the frigid winds that howled through the hills. I was not given another choice. From the moment I tore my way into this world, barking and panting for air, they knew. The tall figures that pulled me from my mother looked in awe, a look one could have easily mistaken for disgust. I didn't look much like my brothers and sisters. I must have been twice their size at the time. An utter monstrosity. To compare me to the others would have been a disservice to them. There must have been no question as to who would be the one to bear it. In no world could it be anyone but me. Its long, protruding spikes made it uncomfortable to lie down. Not like I would have much time to do that once it had shut around my neck. The first day I wore that collar will forever be stained in the back of my mind. The day that collar was placed on me was the first time I had felt cold steel around my neck. The first time I lashed out and ripped flesh from bones. And the first time I took the life of another desperate beast. I was made to watch the sheep. That was my purpose. And as the first day of my watch was nearing its end, I had for a moment felt a sense of fulfillment. The frail, timid sheep seemed to find a sort of comfort in my presence. Some even approached me out of what I'm sure was little more than blatant stupidity and an uncontrollable curiosity. But that short-lived peace was broken quite easily. A howl that pierced the stillness of a hill lost among the mountains. That was the first time I saw them. They looked like me. Well, they were sharper in almost every aspect. Ears, snout, teeth, and claws. He eyed the little sheep. One glance at them, and then at me. A hunger filled his eyes. A hunger that was a stranger to me, but seemed all too familiar a friend to him. Nothing stood between his dinner except for me. I understood why they put this foul thing around my neck. It was for him. For anyone else like him that might come along. It happened so quickly. He jumped at me, knowing I was the only thing stopping him from filling his stomach. But I fought back. I didn't want to die. I wanted to be in that warm home. I wanted that so badly that I would do anything in this world to have a chance at it. Before I could come to realize it, his throat was in my mouth and his body was limp on the ground. The only thing that connected the two was a slender piece of sinew. I dropped his throat, and after a moment I had come to my senses. I was stained in a color of red I hadn't known existed. At that moment I thought, surely the sheep and lambs would hail me a hero. When I turned my head to look at the ones I protected so desperately, I saw nothing but pure terror. Of course, I was such a fool. How else would you look at a creature that tears the monsters you are afraid of to pieces? To them I was worse. A killer tasked to live beside them for the rest of their lives. I believed that this was to be my whole life. A long watch interrupted by moments of violence I could hardly bear to stand. That was until today, when I woke up and all on the hill was silent. A rare occurrence. This must have been a first. But it wasn't just the quiet. The sheep and the other animals were all gone. I couldn't comprehend that everyone had left and abandoned me. Of course, the monstrous old me would be the one to be left behind, I thought. I searched every inch of the farm. Every gate was opened. It seemed they had all just been let out. The home, always lit, even at night, lay dormant, like an old hound that had breathed his last. There was nothing left for me here. I just knew it. I could feel it in my bones. None of them were coming back. I cursed the sky and the ground I walked on. They had set us all free, but had left this damned collar on me. One final shackle. An endless weight that hung around my neck. A reminder of what I would always be. With that thought, I looked at the old farm, and at that house I had dreamed of so dearly every night, and walked away from it one final time, into the lonely dark forest beyond the ridge. The first few days were rough, to say the least. I had grown so accustomed to being fed twice a day, morning and night. That certainty was gone most days. The only thing I had to eat was leftovers of other beasts like me that had given in to starvation. Hunting was almost impossible. The collar mocked me. It would loudly clang. It sounded like a sickly laugh, giving away my position to any possible prey. Cold, tired, and not sure if I would even have a meal for the day. And the worst part was this stupid collar. It was clinging to me like a disease. I walked through that forest in a daze most days. I was sure I would die that way. The last sensation leaving my mind would surely be the strangle the collar had on me. That is what I believed until I met that little crow. In a clearing so beautiful it almost made me forget how empty my stomach was. He was there looking up at the sky. The smallest crow I'd ever seen. I knew I ruined his moment. I knew the second he heard my collar he would fly away. But all I wanted in that moment was to lie there and bask in the sky with him. So I did. I walked over slowly as I could, and to my surprise I made it to him. I laid down and wrapped myself around him, my tail coiling around him, and as I lay there with him, we indulged in the breathtaking sky together. I was lulled into a deep sleep. It was the best sleep I've had since that collar was forced onto me. When I woke up, I was almost certain that little crow would be gone, but he was looking right at me, eyeing me up and down curiously. He must have realized what an absurd situation he let himself be put into. Well, that must not have been the case, since after I had gotten up to look for a meal after not being able to repress the hunger any longer, he followed me. It's more accurate to say I followed him. For the next few days, he would lead me to the corpses of recently deceased animals, or to the homes of rabbits and other small creatures. Those days were the closest thing I had to true happiness in my whole life. The only complaint I had was the collar. Every day I would smash it against every tough object I could find, every rock, log, or tree that seemed sturdy enough, but it was never enough to even dent the darn thing. My dream for a long time switched from that warm home to wanting to lay with that little crow resting upon my neck. But that dream would never come true with this thing around my throat. Then today, that dream seemed to die just as quickly as the last one. He was gone. We would always sleep side by side, but when I got up this morning, he was gone. The sorrow that filled my heart had plunged me into a darkness so suffocating that I howled and barked and raged at everything I could. I wanted so badly to see him perched on a tree not far from where we last rested. I wanted to believe he wouldn't have abandoned me like the others, but as the day came to an end, I had no choice. He was gone. I spent the next 2 days wandering the forest, refusing to eat. I had come to terms with his disappearance. I had also come to terms with the fact that I did not want to be in a world without him. So I would starve myself to death. And when the time came to breathe my last, it would be in that clearing where I first met him. So here I rest. I close my eyes. I know I'll make it through tonight, but tomorrow night won't come for me without a meal. I'm sure of that. Tonight my stomach may be empty, but my mind will be full to the brim with the only good memories I've made in this life. It's a funny thought that once you finally give up, the world decides it won't let you go that easily. I had decided to stay here all day, eyes closed, refusing to look at the sky we once shared, but it seemed another bird must have confused me for a rock, since it kept pecking at me. I had enough of it. Could I not even have this? I thought. What other bird would be stupid enough to approach an enormous animal like me, other than that dumb little crow? When I opened my eyes, there he was. The little crow. My sky was right in front of me. I shot up with a fervor so immense I almost fell back down. In my emaciated state, such a quick action was not the brightest idea. It was him. He was right in front of me. Before I could bark at him in anger, I noticed something on his foot. It was a key, one I could never forget, never erase from my mind. The little crow had found the key to my collar. The fool made a 2-day trek across the forest to the hills I once called my home, for me, to free me. The little crow pecked at my feet in what must have been an attempt to get me to lower my head. I gladly followed his wishes, and after a few minutes of struggling, it hit the ground with a thud similar to how the bodies of the wolves would hit the ground one final time. I was free, and I knew that at last one of my dreams would come true. That day, 2 animals who felt undeserving of love shared the sky together. A little crow wrapped in the neck fur of the largest guardian dog anyone had ever seen.